I'm very happy to be here today with Ms. LeBlanc. This is our first mentorship program where we don't have a live crowd. We're here in our office, the gorgeous view. And Ms. LeBlanc, if you don't mind, introducing yourself to the world and telling them what you do.
Definitely. My name is Mary LeBlanc, and my company is LeBlanc Associates. What my company specializes in is assessment and evaluation of new construction agents, whether it's homes, single-family homes, condos, or anything housing related, even into active adult and senior living, via the mystery shop process. And the purpose of this is to tie into each company's sales agent professional training program so we can go out and identify the strengths and the weaknesses of the site sales agents.
So you've been in the business how long? You've toured how many sales agents?
Oh, thousands. My own company has been in business close to 25 years. Previous to that, I worked for two builders in San Diego County, Bill Davidson Communities and Woody Brem Communities.
So you've basically defined 7 or 8 steps in a sales process.
Correct. For any effective sales presentation, there are various benchmarks an agent needs to achieve, and they can approach it in many different ways, but they're basically, goes back to the who, what, where, when, how, and why. And that's your broad category. Again, effective sales isn't a robotic process, and each agent needs to tailor it and focus it to their personality. And we'll get into the specific categories, but basically it's the who, what, where, when, why, and how.
Wonderful. So let's start with the greeting.
Sure.
You go to thousands of open houses, thousands of sales.
Correct.
And you interviewed thousands of real estate professionals selling homes.
Correct. When my people arrive at the various sales centers, obviously the agent at the time does not know that they're being mystery shopped, quote unquote. And what we look for is coming in this incognito position is how does an agent welcome someone to their sales center? When I personally speak with agents, I always like to equate it like you're welcoming someone into your home. You're selling a home, therefore welcome someone to your home. Forget it's your sales office, but make it a warm, friendly greeting. Make eye contact, direct eye contact, shake someone's hand. At some point within the first minute or so, have an exchange of names. And we want to know who we're speaking with. Buying a home, we're all aware, is probably one of the most major investments any of us is ever going to make. Whether it's your very first home or you're down the road as an empty nester, it's still going to be a major investment for you. So you have to start the emotional connect from the greeting. Welcome someone into your home.
Wonderful. So what's a good example? I love role playing. We do it in our company all the time. What's a good example of a good greeting?
So someone comes into my sales office, say I'm sitting down in my inner sales office. I immediately get up, come out to greet that person entering my home, and I say, welcome to Eastern Hills. How can I be of service to you today? My name is Mary, and you are? Something along those lines.
Wonderful. What's a bad example? Something you see a lot that's not really a good idea.
What's really the worst of the worst is someone who's in their inner sales office, stays seated, doesn't get up to come out and greet someone, points to a display of the brochures. There's the brochures, the models are to the right. If you have any questions, I'll be here when you get back. Unfortunately, that happens more often than you care to admit.
Yeah, my favorite is I'm on the phone, somebody's moving in, I'll be with you in a second, and then 5 minutes later, you know, I'm still on that phone call. Why don't you go see the model and I'll meet you when you get back?
Right. Now if an agent is on the phone, and sometimes it can be a legitimate important call, maybe a last minute lender problem, at the very least, put your call on hold for a second, just excuse yourself, acknowledge whoever's coming into your sales office, explain to them you want an important phone call, you'll be with them as quickly as possible. If you'd like to get started on the models, I promise I'll catch up with you. And then do that, follow through with that.
Wonderful. Building rapport is the second.
Right. The personal connection is critical in sales. And I don't care if you're selling homes, you're selling cars, you're selling pots and pans. You have, for any successful salesperson, you have to establish that personal connection. So the only way you're going to achieve that is to have your prospective buyer get to a point of liking who you are. The only way you can achieve that is to have that conversation, and that's the slow rapport building process. It doesn't happen instantly, but it's your initial greeting will set the stage to open the door. So as you progress, you find those common points through conversation, through discovery, what you may have in common. If they arrive with their young children, everyone loves to talk about their children, so you can make a comment about their child. You know, what a darling little girl, what's her name? Really, how old is she? Something along those lines, but that's the slow building of the rapport. Could be something simple as acknowledging a piece of jewelry a woman is wearing and saying, what a lovely piece of jewelry. Is that something unique, something that came from your family? You know, just start that conversation to break down the barrier of someone in a sales office. And that's what you want to prevent, because when you're in a sales office, barriers go up. So that's part of welcoming someone into your home.
As compared to discovery and qualification, how would you compare the two?
It's all intertwined. Discovery is basically the process of finding out who you are selling to. You want to know if you have a single person, if you have a single parent, if you have a couple, if you have a family. Is it an empty nester? Who am I selling to? Tell me something about who you are. What you're going to try to attempt to do during the course of your encounter with your prospective buyer is create a match. You have to create a product match, and you have to create a community match. If you don't create that match, you're not going to sell, your product is not going to sell itself, because there's way too much competition out there. So to create a match, you have to find out who you're selling to. If I'm a single profile, we'll just use me as an example. I'm married, but we'll just say I'm single for a while. And you're trying to tell me all the wonderful things about family life here. You've missed your selling opportunity, because I'm a single person, I don't have any kids. While it may be okay, and maybe my needs and preferences may want me in this community that also has families, but maybe a top lot isn't so important to me, except maybe how many years down the road is a resale value. So you have to find out what is important. Again, if you're selling to someone who doesn't care to cook that often, don't focus your whole presentation on the wonders of your kitchen, because if I don't cook that often, I'm not going to be spending that much time in the kitchen. So find out where my room is and focus on that.
Wonderful. So a lot of questions.
Questions through conversation. The main thing and the most difficult thing for agents to do, particularly in today's selling environment, is to break away from the inquisition approach to getting information. People just don't like to be asked question upon question upon question upon question. You can get that same information via conversation. Tell me a little about what you're looking for. Tell me a little bit about your family. Let's discuss what room is of most importance to you. So if you can get your prospective buyer to start talking about what's important, then they've done half your sales job, because one thing will start leading to another as you slowly learn about where to take your sales presentation.
At the core, what is the sales job?
The sales job at the core is to create the match, like I mentioned earlier, but it does have to be focused on whatever your prospective buyer's needs and preferences are. So if I come in first and you discover my needs and preferences in a home, condo, or whatever it is, it doesn't necessarily match what the next person is. So in sales, one size does not fit all. So every time someone comes through your doors, you have to find out the unique aspects of a home that will make it a match for them. You'll have categories that are the same for people, but it's never going to be identical for every single person.
So you have the greeting, the building of rapport, and the discovery and qualification.
Right.
After you've finished the initial three, you go into community presentation.
Yeah, community presentation, actually that can be inserted anywhere in your sales presentation. There's no sales presentation that has to follow a specific route, but all points need to be covered. So depending on who you're talking to, how your conversation is going, your community can come in early or can come in a bit later. Some agents like to create the product match first. Other agents like to create the community match first. Many times, particularly if you're dealing with a family, the community match will come earlier rather than later, because you do need to discuss play areas, parks, schools, and so forth.
And community presentation, product presentation needs to be specified to the individual buyer based on your discovery of what's important to them.
Right. Most new home communities today will have some as few as 4 or 5 plans. I've seen communities, my company covers builders across the continental United States as well as Canada. And my Canadian clients are very unique for their, especially for their condominiums. They could have as many as 15 different plans. So to just direct your prospective buyer to view 15 different plans is a waste of time and money. So that's where your discovery comes in first. Do they want a 1-bedroom? Do they want a 1-bedroom den? What's your lifestyle? Do you need a home office? So if you take out of those 15 plans, 8 plans, 10 plans, whatever the numbers are, if you can focus it down to 2 or 3, then you take your prospective buyer. You're certainly welcome to view all our models. We're proud of all of them. But let me recommend, from what you have told me to date, plans 2, 3, and 4, which maybe would be more tailored to your families or your individual needs.
So what's a USP, unique selling points?
Unique selling points are what is in your product, what is going to differentiate your product from your competition. And every sales agent who's selling new construction, whether it's condominiums or new homes, better know their competition like the back of their hand as if they were selling it. Because you cannot just do a generic presentation. Well, in our kitchens, we have granite countertops. Well, so what? If you went to 13 different new home communities, they're going to have granite countertops. That's not a unique selling point. But if you find out something in your discovery process about, okay, say the kitchen is the most important room. Generally, in today's new homes, it's a great room, open room effect. You have your kitchen and family area where everyone spends the time. You don't have walls separating you anymore. Although some people, there are plans out there that people prefer, but it's far and few between. So what's going to make your unique selling point of your open area, your great room, different from XYZ builder and DEF builder and whoever the builder is? Some builders have, in our state, California, a California room directly off. Other builders don't have that. Some builders perhaps allows you to individualize your kitchen if you're not buying a spec or an inventory home. Some builders have side rooms from the garage before you enter the kitchen where you can have your laptops and you can your chargers for your smartphones or whatever it is. But you have to find out what's different about you versus whoever your competition is. And it's getting harder to do, but you have to find that and then match it to whatever the salient room is for your prospective buyer.
Oftentimes people fall into the trap of going into selling price and incentives too early.
Oh, way too early. What difference? I mean, you do have to qualify for price. I mean, if you're selling $800,000 homes and the price point of your buyer is $500,000, you can do the best sales job in the world, but it's not going to happen. You know, if that's what. So early on in your presentation, and that's part of the discovery process too, is We have some lovely homes to show you, and they range from 500 to 650. Is that the range you were considering? Yes, great. Then you get started. But if you start selling price or you start selling incentives from the get-go, you're not going to ever be able to obtain that emotional, personal connect to your product and to your community. If you start at, if the buyer's saying my price point is $550, say you're at $6.25 or $6.50, and you start with price, what you don't know is that maybe that buyer, if they really do like your home versus someone else's home, they really can go a little bit higher. But if you're selling price, you've eliminated a potential sale.
Dave Harding, who referred us to you, who was a previous talk in our mentorship program, always talks about asking for the order.
Right.
Where salespeople just simply forget the fifth step in your outline,
Right.
which is asking for the order.
Yeah, number one, you have to earn the right to ask for it. That's number one. And that's why we go through all these steps. And we talk about product and community and the whole thing. But if you've done all that and you're getting a lot of trial closings and you're getting the feedback that your prospective buyer does like your community, does like your home, what you have to do is assume the sale. And there's nothing wrong with asking for it. And you summarize the like points up to the point where you ask. Okay, Joe, you told me you like our homes, you like our community, you said that kitchen area is perfect for your family. Are you ready to move forward today? And if they hesitate, then it's okay to back into that. Is there anything we haven't covered to address or clarify your concerns? And is there something that's preventing you from making a purchase commitment today?
So what's the difference between what you're suggesting and what people are often afraid to do, which is being too pushy or being a car salesman?
Because they haven't earned the right to ask, and they're just afraid to ask. Number one, you have to assume if someone's coming to your new home community, if you know they're not there for just decorating ideas, they're there to buy a home, and you're on the list. Most buyers today will go on the internet, and they'll create their short list. You know, they may have 1, 2, 3, maybe 6, whatever the numbers are. But if you're on their list, there's an interest level. If there's an interest level, the agent is charged with capitalizing on that interest level and bring them to the point to find out why they're not ready to make a decision. And part of that discovery process, if we can back into that a little bit, is to determine how long they've been looking. Now, if your prospective buyer has been out there 2 months, 3 months, X months, they've looked at 4, 5, 6 different communities, something hasn't hit home yet. So you have to find out, tell me a little bit about what you've seen so far. What is it that is holding you back from making a decision at any of these communities? Because if you can get them to discuss that, then you know how to approach and cover that objection and concern and make the sale at your community.
That's a great example of this, the sixth part, which is overcoming objections.
Right.
And a great example of discovery. By using questions without doing an interrogation, you found out they've been looking for 6 months, 2 months. You've asked what is it that they don't want or what is it that they didn't find. You fill in what it is that you have that fills the void that they have. And then you ask for the business by overcoming that objection. Am I following correctly?
That's absolutely correct. If you've done your job right, and the motivation of that prospective buyer is, because that's part of your discovery process, is their motivation, just be a new community, a larger home, smaller home, whatever it is, a better school district, be closer to family. You've determined their motivation, you've met all their needs through your effective sales presentation. There is nothing wrong with asking for the sale. The worst case scenarios are going to say, no, I don't like your product, or no, I have to think about it. And then you come back into it, okay, is there something in particular that you need to think about? Because maybe you haven't covered a hidden concern, which some people carry, and they will not articulate unless you probe to find out what those concerns are. You can't always assume that someone's going to come back and buy your product. I mean, they may not necessarily buy on the first visit, and we'll get into that as effective follow-up, but you just can't assume they're going to come back on their own. You have to create a reason for them to want to come back.
And I think another brilliant thing that you just pointed out as a natural progression of what you teach and what you check in others is that by simply finding out why they're not ready to move forward today as a follow-up to are you ready to move forward, you're going back to the discovery.
That's it.
I asked you a whole bunch of questions. I thought I answered them. You're not trying to close them or convince them or put them in a hole. What you're just trying to do is go back to the discovery and, hey, maybe I missed something.
Absolutely. You have to convince your prospective buyer you're there to help them find the home, their dream home, basically. Hopefully your product is going to meet that need and that desire. Sometimes it won't, and that's okay. If you haven't got a product in a community match, you can't force it because it's going to end up being a cancellation for you down the road. But you have to find out you can't fear rejection in sales. You just can't fear it. It's part of the process. Most of the time you'll get people who are on the fence and they need a little hand-holding. That's okay. That's part of your sales job. You're there to hold their hand. You're here to guide them. You're there to counsel them. You're there to educate them about your product. Your builder, never forget your builder. That builder story is so critical. We're not that far removed from a very traumatic period in the housing industry where a lot of builders are no longer with us. So the sales professional must at all times weave into their sales presentation the strength of their builder, the longevity, the quality of the product, the quality of the construction, and any other items that you know maybe your competition is not addressing. You have to provide assurances for someone to make a major purchase decision. You have to provide assurance.
Why are people afraid to ask for the business? I see this in real estate all the time. Salespeople are afraid to ask if you're ready to move forward and buy this home.
I think it's a couple of reasons. It's the fear of rejection and the fear of, in their mindset, the car salesman. And what new home salespeople must always do is think of themselves at the level of a sales professional. If you're doing your job right and correctly and effectively, you're not selling cars. It's not take it or leave it, move on to the next one. It's perfectly all right to approach someone to ask for the business. You're not going to say it in those words. You're going to ask them to take the next step forward. By the way, we have this, and many builders have it, they have a hold policy. I really hate to see you lose the Avalon home. I know it's a perfect match for you and your family. The weekend's coming up, which is our busiest time. If you'd like to, while you're thinking about it, we do a courtesy hold for you for 72 hours. The check won't go anyplace, but it will reserve that home, that lot site for you and your family, and no one else will be able to take it within 72 hours, or whatever your company's policy is for the time frame.
And that's the trial close that you're talking about.
It's more than a trial close, but it's a trial close, but you're also getting their purchase commitment, because now they're going to leave a reservation check. That's a huge step as opposed to, yes, I like your product, yes, I like this home, oh, this would really work for me. Those are all the incremental trial closes. The more you can get your prospective buyer to say, yes, this really works for me. Yeah, Dad, never thought of that. That would really work for my family. Those are all good trial closes. But if you get them to write that reservation check, if your company has that policy, that's a grand leap forward to making the full purchase commitment.
What about the agent who says, you know, as long as I'm vivacious and energetic and smiling and make them feel warm, if they want to buy it, they'll tell me. I don't need to ask for it.
That may work for some buyers, but it's not going to work for all buyers. Yes, you need to be smiley, warm, professional. We don't want Grinches out there. And you always, no matter how bad a day you're having, you have to have your sales face on. That's the smile on your face, the warm empathy, and so forth. In sales, and I think anyone in sales for any length of time, and there's been different definitions of it, but there's different personality types for your buyers. You have your hard chargers, the decision makers, the engineering types, you know, they internalize everything. You have your pom-pom buyers, they're all over the place. They're doing the sales job for you. You have all kinds of personalities that you're going to be selling to. So you're going to have to tailor what you do to that personality. For example, my husband and I are opposite personalities. He's a man of very few words, and he doesn't like people in sales coming at him with a lot of words. I like to engage people. I like conversation. So you would be selling to me in a different way. If you have that combination together, then the astute sales agent will go with the conversationalist and not try to force conversation on someone like my husband, who doesn't really like to say a whole lot.
And overall, if we're talking about the whole sales process, what do you see that's really good? What do you see that's really bad?
The really good is the sales agent who engages, is interested, assumes the sale from the get-go, treats their buyer with respect. Everyone coming in through your sales center has to be treated with respect and is as if they were a valued customer. Please don't make negative assumptions. My very early career, I made all those assumptions that I learned the hard way. Many times someone may come into your sales center, may not be dressed how you think a buyer of your home should be dressed, but they could have the net worth of 3 of your other home buyers. So you always assume the sale until you qualify otherwise. The worst in sales is just someone who's even less than a glorified host or hostess. It's just, here I am, I'll answer your questions, there's the models, come back when you have time. And I've seen that.
So we've done with the sales process. The gentleman, the buyer, is not ready to move forward. Talk to us about follow-up.
Follow-up is critical. No matter what stage of the sales process you're in with your prospective buyer. People do have to think about it. It's a major purchase decision. If you've, through the course of your sales presentation, you found out critical points of information. Now sometimes it's very helpful to hold back on information because that gives you the door opener for follow-up. So if someone wants to expand the California room in a different way off the kitchen, sliders, French doors, whatever, you may know the answer to that. You may want to hold back and say something to the fact that, you know, I think that's probably possible, but I need to verify that. Would it be okay if I get back to you in the next 24 hours, whatever, with the answer? And of course, then you have to follow through with that. That always gives you the reason with that little door opener. Or it could be you found out that you're on the short list with your competitor community, and your buyer now has to think about that competitor community and you. This is where knowing your competition comes into play. That gives you a reason to follow up with a phone call and or email and say, I know you need to think about this, it's important, and determine what it is that they're still wavering about. Because some people will take forever before they'll make their final decision. But always have a reason for that follow-up, but do follow up.
I really appreciate your time. We've been trying to set this up for a couple of months. I've been seeing your results in the industry for years. And I thank you very much for coming in and sharing.
Well, I appreciate you having me and having me share my knowledge with your audience.
Continued success.
Thank you.
Thank you.